All right, let's jump right in. The Middle East is, it's really on a knife's edge right now with a rapidly escalating conflict. And at the absolute center of it all, a huge power shift happening in Iran. So, what we're going to do is break down how this perfect storm of a new supreme leader, a whole series of military strikes, and some really high stakes international politics are all colliding.
So, to really get a sense of just how serious this is, I think we have to start with the human cost. I mean, the numbers we're about to see, they paint a really grim picture of a conflict that's spreading much further and wider than you might think. Okay, first, let's look inside Iran itself. According to their own state media, the death toll from Israeli and American strikes has hit at least 940 people. I mean, that is a staggering number. And remember, this is the official figure coming from inside the country, which really sets the stage for why things are escalating so quickly. And yeah, this conflict is absolutely not staying within Iran's borders. If you look next door in Lebanon, the health minister there is reporting 394 casualties from Israeli operations against Hezbollah. And just the really tough part of this statistic is that 83 of those were children. The United States is involved too, and is also seeing a direct human cost. The Pentagon has confirmed that 7 American service members have been killed in combat since the start of what they're calling Operation Epic Fury.
All right, so that's the human toll. Now, let's get to the event that's really acting like the epicenter of all this chaos. We're talking about a sudden, really critical change right at the very top of Iran's leadership, and it's all happening under the intense pressure of a full-blown war. So what happened is that the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, died, and his death just created this massive power vacuum at the worst possible moment. Suddenly, this 88-member group called the Assembly of Experts had this monumental task: choose the next leader of the country while, for all intents and purposes, a war is raging all around them. And if you want a sense of the kind of pressure cooker environment they were in, listen to this. The Israel Defense Forces issued a direct, unmistakable threat. They basically said, hey, not only will we target any new leader you pick, but we'll also go after anyone involved in picking him. I mean, you can't get much higher stakes than that. So with that as the backdrop, Iran went ahead and announced its choice for the new leader. And let me tell you, the person they picked, well, he immediately sparked some very strong and wildly different reactions, both at home and across the globe. And that choice was Mojtaba Khamenei, who is the second son of the very leader who just died. Now, this is a huge deal. Why? Because it essentially keeps power within the Khamenei family. He's only the third leader the country has had since the 1979 revolution.
So how did that go over inside Iran? Well, the most powerful military force in the country, the Revolutionary Guard, didn't even hesitate. They immediately came out and publicly declared their full obedience and readiness for self-sacrifice. That's a massive signal, right? It's the hardline establishment closing ranks and consolidating power around the new guy fast. Internationally, though, a completely different story. The reaction was the exact opposite. You had the US President, Donald Trump, making his position incredibly clear, just stating it flat out. Khamenei's son is unacceptable to me. Wow. I mean, that just immediately sets the stage for a major, intense confrontation. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at how all this, the new leader, the existing tensions, is now spilling across Iran's borders. Because what we're seeing is the conflict escalating and pulling more and more countries right into the middle of it.
You can really see the domino effect here. I mean, look at Lebanon. Israel is ramping up its operations against Hezbollah there. Then you go south, across the Persian Gulf, and suddenly Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE have all seen casualties. And it's even spreading to Europe. Get this, a British airbase in Cyprus was targeted by drones that were launched all the way from Lebanon. It's really widening.
Now, a war like this wide, it has consequences that go way beyond the battlefield. It's starting to hit the global economy, and you can feel it. It's also blowing up some deep political divisions, especially, as we'll see, in the United States.
And the most immediate place you see this impact? Oil prices. You've got the Strait of Hormuz. Think of it as a supercritical shipping lane, like a highway that nearly a fifth of the entire world's oil supply has to pass through. Well, that highway is now basically a conflict zone. And what happens? The price of a barrel of oil just shot up to $100, which we haven't seen since 2022. And of course, that price spike at the pump leads to immediate political fallout. You have two totally different responses in the US. On one hand, President Trump is framing this as a very small price to pay for safety and peace. But on the other side, you've got Senate Minority Leader Schumer calling for the government to release oil from its emergency reserves, saying, and I'm quoting here,
Real Americans are already suffering. So you see the clash right there. Okay, so let's pull back and look at the big picture. Where does all of this leave us? Well, when you piece it all together, the future looks, well, it looks dangerously tense. It's super unpredictable, and maybe most importantly, it seems like every single side is just digging in their heels, preparing for a much longer fight. So let's just quickly recap these key tensions, right? You've got Iran's new leader who has the hardliners at home backing him up, but he's completely rejected by the US. You've got Iran's foreign minister saying no way to a ceasefire. Meanwhile, the US defense secretary isn't ruling out putting American troops on Iranian soil. And all the while, the conflict just keeps pulling in more and more countries. It really makes you wonder, is there any path to de-escalation here? It's hard to see one. And honestly, that is the question that's hanging over absolutely everything. When every side seems to be doubling down, when the violence is just spiraling outwards, what does a diplomatic off-ramp even look like? Is there one? That's the question world leaders are wrestling with at this very moment. And the security of the entire region, not to mention the stability of the global economy, is hanging in the balance.